Welcome to Synced on Air. I'm your host, Angelique Robb, and today I have a good friend with me, Marie Ambusk. Marie, welcome. So glad to have you on the podcast. How are
Hi,
you doing?
Angelique. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to you telling. I know your story, but I want our audience to know what you've
What's
developed and why and
okay?
all that good stuff. So, do you want to take us to the beginning?
Sure. I'll tell you about that. So I have not been in this industry that you folks are all so firmly planted in
Oh,
for very long, or maybe, well, not that it's not for very long, but for the same reasons that you have been. So
mhm.
my history, my background, I guess you could say, is my 40-year career in finance, and I retired from GE Healthcare in 2011. So I've been retired for a while now, but back in that time frame, shortly before I retired, it happened that some young trees in our new neighborhood died mysteriously. I didn't know anything about trees at the time, and I was not sure I understood why they died. So we had an arborist check them out, look at them, and he said it's a root collar disorder. I'll never forget that term. I had no idea what that meant either. It didn't sound good though.
Okay.
And anyway, so we had to get the trees replaced. And when I was talking to the landscaper who was to replace them, I said, how do we prevent that from happening again? What do we look for? What do we do? And he threw his hands up and said to me, "Lady, you get what you get." And I was like, "That's your answer." Of course, I didn't know any better, so I thought, well, maybe that's true.
Doesn't
So
seem
that
very
was it.
scientific.
Not very scientific, and again, I was not in a position to quiz him on it. I didn't know anything more about it myself, but it just didn't seem right. So in the end,
Trust your gut because that
yes,
isn't right.
yeah, there's something wrong with that. And as my background again in this business I worked with was, we developed software for the medical industry. And so there were a lot of people who were sort of on the leading edge of thinking how to solve problems and whatnot. So I just couldn't understand why someone could just leave me hanging with something like that. So I thought, well, I need to learn more about this myself. And I studied a lot about it. I wanted to understand how trees grow, why they die, and what we could do to possibly help them to live to maturity. It didn't take very long for me to realize that it wasn't just my neighborhood and my landscaper and my trees and that were having a problem like this. It really was a big problem everywhere, and it's a hard problem to solve. So again, things kind of went from one thing to another. I became a master gardener back then. This is where my first education for all of that happened. And since 2007, I have been a leader of a master gardener project
Wow,
called
congratulations.
Triage. Yeah. And I still
Triage.
triage, and I still lead this project, and we help people to learn best maintenance practices for urban trees. I have found in doing that many people are intimidated by trees. It's a big plant and they're afraid to hurt the tree if they prune a branch, and they don't know how to do it. So it's a whole new world for me.
And I also think that there's a lot of us in the industry that don't realize how much damage we can do doing extra pruning. It's both
Exactly.
sides.
It is. So you do need to have some education or
Mhm.
guidance to do that. And one of the things that we did in Project Triage is to look at the tree's roots or find out if it has any roots that you can discover. We removed mountains of mulch and just
Jeez,
leveled the mulch
volcano
and
malts.
removed thousands of stem girdling roots that we could get to
Yeah.
by excavating and whatnot. And it was helpful for the trees and it was good education for everyone. And that is where I sort of had another epiphany in my life where it takes a lot of work to excavate a tree with your hands and hand tools. And I woke up one morning having had a dream. This is kind of corny sounding, but it's true. And I thought I need a crystal ball to see the tree's roots below ground and to determine if the tree has a problem that we, our volunteer group, can help do something about. Again,
Yeah.
triage the problem,
Tree.
right?
I know. I
Yeah.
love that.
So I don't know this thought, and it really, I got one of those metal detector things. I was trying to use that. That was the first tool I tried. Of course, that wasn't going to do any good, but
Yeah.
my mind was spinning and working in a business that was involved in healthcare in the medical
Yes.
industry. Our people did a lot of work with ultrasound and,
Mhm.
x-ray machines and all this stuff. So I went and picked their brains and said, well, can we look at tree roots with that? And how can we figure this
Yeah.
out? So it all started out with me being very selfish and wanting to make my job easier and to help my volunteers.
Hardly
Seriously.
selfish. Yeah. No,
But
you're saving trees.
honestly, I had no clue where this was gonna take me. So that's where it started. It was a dream and a crystal ball in my mind. I could not rattle it out of my mind. So one thing led to another, and 20 years later, here we are. And we have been looking to find the right scanning tool or technology that
Mhm.
would produce an image of some kind or data of some kind that could be analyzed and understand what the tree root quality is in a root ball before you
I
plant the
love
tree.
that.
I mean, I started out looking at tree roots in the ground, and one day we do want to do that as well with our tool. But if you're going to get to the root of the problem,
No pun intended.
no pun intended, it kind of starts before you plant the tree. And
Exactly.
whether you grow a tree in a container or you grow it in a field is going to be in a container
Some point.
before it goes to its forever home in the ground.
Mhm.
And so we're inspecting tree roots above ground in a container of some sort. So that
I think
is
that's
the
it's fantastic. I mean, I think roots of any plant, um, there's quality in everything in our industry.
mm,
There's quality in how you lay paving. There's quality in how you design the landscape. There's quality in everything. And roots are one of those things that you can kind of look at, but what makes a good root system, and do we always have enough choice to pick
mm,
a better quality
mm,
root system as
yes.
well?
And can we do something about it if it's not
Yes.
good enough? And of course, we realize tree roots are not perfect and they
Yeah.
are not intended to be perfect. Like us, they are perfectly imperfect.
Yes, yes.
And
Well, it's
so,
organic, so you can't
yeah,
control it, to a
exactly.
certain
You
degree.
can't
Yeah.
control it. That said, there are some problems that we humans have brought upon the
Created.
trees.
Yeah.
And by the way, we've grown them in the nursery that could lend to their demise in a
Yes.
much shorter period of time than it should. And that's the kind of thing that we're looking to identify so
Improve.
someone can fix it before we plant the tree. We're not fixing the problem. We're just identifying it and quantifying it and actually grading the quality of the tree roots.
I was gonna ask that because, I did an interview with John Conroy at Fish Branch Tree Farm in Florida, and he was like, we talked a lot about trees, and grades and standards and specifications. And
Yes,
Florida is one of those states that has a robust,
absolutely.
grading system,
Yes,
and it's proven to give them higher they can justify the quality.
right.
We don't have that in every state, and
No, we don't.
his argument was like, "We need this everywhere
Yes, I
because
agree.
we're not delivering quality." It's like, all this health talk makes me think of, whenever I was having my first kid and, the first 7 years of their lives, even though they can't even talk for some of that, is like
Mm,
the most important part for their personality, for,
mm,
the
yes,
rest of their
yeah.
lives. It's the same with
It's a
trees.
foundation. Yeah, it is.
And often we're neglecting them maybe in a pot,
Mhm.
thinking that
Yeah.
trees can be really tough and they
Yes.
can grow. I'm down in South Louisiana where there's live oaks that are hundreds of years old, and they see them and everybody parks on the tree roots and all this stuff, and you go, gosh, and they still survive. And like,
Yeah,
not
yeah.
that I'm saying to do that, but
Yeah,
we treat them pretty rough and they still
we
survive.
do.
but
We
but
do.
um you know how could you know we do better? And
Right. And
it
part of
really
that
starts in the
comes with
beginning.
education and awareness of the fact that the tree roots are very shallow in the ground. So,
Yes.
when you park your car on it,
That's
it suffers from that and so out
Well,
of
I
sight,
think
out
it's
of
because
mind though.
it's well, I really think, and I always like to try to get into everybody else's perspective too.
Yes.
Like, the problem, or the challenge, I should say, with trees being damaged is that you usually don't see it for many years
Right
after
away.
it
Exactly.
happens. Like,
Yes.
you talk about perennials or something. Obviously, if you go and step on some perennials, you'll see it right away that you've damaged them.
Exactly.
With
Exactly.
trees, if you volcano mulch them, you
Mm.
won't see the problem
Yeah.
for maybe years, because
Right.
it helps
Mhm.
disease and, get in, and it's just a deterioration over maybe 5 to 10 years. So
Right.
how do you tie the root cause to
Mhm.
what you're seeing? So I
Yeah.
think that makes it really hard for us, because we're more, I think people in general, like homeowners, arborists, landscapers, we're more in the moment,
Mhm.
um, than think about something that we did 10 years ago that caused this.
Exactly. And when the problem is manifests itself in 10 years or longer, there's no recourse. Like, you can't go back to the guy who planted the tree or grew the tree and say, "Well, it died because of something you did." I mean, who can do that? You can't do
Yeah.
that. So it's a very painful reality for the tree asset owner, which could be the homeowner, the municipality,
Yes.
the landscape architect who's has a reputation for preparing and designing and developing beautiful sites when it's there for the long term. And if the trees fail in a lot shorter time than they should, that's bad for everybody. So there's pain all around, and it's very expensive to remove and replace a tree when
Mhm.
they should be living much longer than that. I find that from the exposure I've had to this world of yours
It's
that
yours too now.
it is mine now. I know. I guess I can't walk away from that. But it seems to me that for a tree, because of the nature of the tree, that the stem grows in girth. It gets fat over time. It generally, if I look at a tree and it has lived and is thriving for 20 years or more, I think that tree could make it to maturity, because it seems like right around 20 years, the girth of the tree, the circling roots that were in some container. And the roots always win. They always win. They strangle the tree and I just can't I can't do anything. And it's underground, so until someone is called, like an arborist or landscaper is called to a site to
To
see what's wrong with
airspace
this
it or
tree, and they
something.
start
Yeah.
poking around and expose the roots, then you see, well, sorry, but root
And
collar
yeah,
disorder.
you can only do something like, correct it,
Yeah,
air spading, and if it's not already damaging
so damaged.
the trunk. Yeah.
Yes. There is, I think there's a potential for correcting that kind of a problem before it gets too far gone, too badly damaged, as you say. But it's a lot of work, and it
Yeah.
is not likely going to
Expensive.
happen. It's expensive, and you
And you
could
have
have
to
been
know to look.
fixed. You have to know to look, exactly.
How do you know to look? Yeah,
I
underground.
know. Yeah, usually you start to see the signs. It's starting to die from the top, or something that might make you look to the ground and below.
Yeah.
But
I see a
generally,
lot of
people don't do that.
unhealthy trees around, and that
Mm,
bothers me, and
yeah,
I think there's signs of, problems in trees all over the place.
I think so
And so
too.
you did mention that your tool, so trees ROI,
Yeah,
so the goal of your tool is first off to scan the roots in infancy
container. Yeah,
in a container.
above
Okay.
ground. Yep.
Above ground. And so is there a size limit or is it any size?
Yeah. Well, we're still developing this tool, so it's a
Okay.
science project. And we
Yes.
do have it developed to a certain degree, and we're testing and developing algorithms now. So we're not quite ready for expanding our test market, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
So right now, our ideal tree container to scan, again, to keep the variables at a minimum, is a number 15 container, 15-gallon container tree. By then, the roots have grown enough. They've been shifted from various containers into that. So there could be a myriad of issues going on that would be interesting to identify. But once we get all of this, the whole algorithm set and peer reviewed and all, which is probably, we're within a year or 2 years from getting to that point. And
Fantastic.
and then we will be able to use the tool on a big box tree, like a,
Okay.
7 2,000-gallon tree,
Yeah.
or those would be interesting, I think, to see
Yeah.
what's going on in there. I don't see it being really valuable in smaller than a number 15.
Okay.
I'm just thinking, once we get
Too
the
juvenile.
industry to identify at that level, if they are growers and they realize, oh, there are problems in our number fins, we need to shift them differently from a 10 to a 15 and make sure that the roots have been looked at. Oh, I mean, there's something they could do to
Well,
get to
that's a
that point, and
yeah, you want to
there's
fix it before it gets to the
right,
huge sizes. So I think
exactly, right,
your point about once the trees get to a certain girth, then they're strangling themselves. So you want to, I mean, I can imagine 15-gallon is a very good size for that.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
fix everything then,
Yes,
you're in
yes,
good shape for the future.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of the Goldilocks size.
Yeah.
It's, easy to move around. I think the growers like selling that size, and it's a good test market for us, so we've been focusing on those, though we have scanned other size things too. But yes, so what our product is a ground penetrating radar is our technology, and
Okay.
it's a tree CT system. So, just like a you go to the hospital to have your broken leg examined by a CT machine, it's the same kind of technology, only it's around a container above ground, and it is not like X-ray technology that's dangerous to be around, which a CT, a medical CT would be. So, ground penetrating radar is very safe for people to be around. So, what we have, I'll just describe it a little bit to you, but If you could imagine a 15-gallon container, it's
Mhm.
probably 17 inches tall or so, pretty rigid top, although they're all different and sometimes they're broken or warped or I mean, there's so many variables just in in that group. So what we have is there's a track that sits on the top of the rim, for
Okay.
example. It is kind of like a racetrack and has a wheel on it that will spin around the track. Attached to this wheel is a mechanism that has an actuator arm or a arm, I guess you could say, that hangs over the edge of the container and it holds the radar sensor. So
Okay.
as the little racetrack thing spins around, so does the radar gadget, which is about the size of a cell phone,
Okay.
the sensor, and with each rotation, it is spirals its way down to the bottom of the container, and so it's like
Okay.
1 centimeter of a slice of each rotation.
Okay.
Oh,
Where it
it's
goes
just yeah, a
down. Yeah.
spiral, long string of data, which is really hard to look at and make any sense of in itself, but it really is, it's amazing that the algorithms can identify and knit all of that together, and we actually do have a 3D image of the tree's roots that you can look at. Of course, you still don't know if it's good or bad because it's a hot mess in there, but that's why we need
Yeah.
the algorithms. The data scientists are now studying that to determine, is the stem of the root of the stem of the tree below the grade of the soil, and how far is it, and that could be a problem, and are there roots above that point, which is where this girdling problem can
Can
be happening
arise.
if you don't
Yeah.
remove that. So, and that would be a very easy one to fix. There are other, there's probably a half a dozen serious problems that we are inspecting for, and in aggregate it will then create a score, a grade that
Okay.
will determine whether it's a thumbs up, plant it, go plant it, water it, be good to it, plant it right, or thumbs down. Like these, there's serious problems that cannot be fixed. If it's, somewhere in the middle, and in all cases, we'll tell you exactly where the problem is, what the problem is, and how to fix it.
But
And
yeah. So
yeah,
cool. So
and okay,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask, are you getting a lot of support from nurseries that they want this? Is it
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of a tough sell to a nursery until they understand better what the likelihood of how they could use this in their operation is. I think, and I totally understand that they are a little bit threatened by someone coming
or
up to them and
hesitant?
saying,
Yeah.
"We're gonna inspect your tree roots and you may not be able to sell them for the price you want," or whatever. It's their inventory, it's their livelihood, and it is a scary thing to do that to someone. But it's not the we're not intending to throw anybody under the bus or
Mhm.
cause anybody's operation to have a problem. We're trying to create a tool that will help them to grow better trees, which no one's in that business if they don't want to do a good job. I can't believe that they would be. It's way too much work.
Well, and it could be the other way instead of it could be that their higher grade trees
Yeah,
command a better price.
absolutely.
Not necessarily that they can't sell these other trees. So I think
Exactly.
it's, I feel like everything's about, it could be race to the bottom, cheaper, cheaper, cheaper.
Right.
But actually,
Yeah,
the value of trees, the value
exactly.
of a 20-year-old, 40-year-old,
Yes.
100-year-old tree,
Yes.
it's in that line, that like
Yeah.
it's worth tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of
Absolutely.
dollars.
Yeah.
And how can we create that? Because, we can
Mhm.
plant trees all day long, but if they're not gonna survive,
Right.
then we're actually wasting resources, we're wasting
Absolutely.
time, we're.
Yes.
So I think you're right. Ultimately, it will raise the quality in the industry of the product of
Yes.
trees, and I think that gives our industry a better livelihood, a better, it should raise the bar and make things worth
Yeah.
more.
Exactly. So it's all about the value proposition, which is exactly what you're saying. And depending on where you are in this big green industry, the value proposition is going to be different. If you're a grower, you might consider that you could save resources, water, human resources and time if you focus on the trees that are going to live and be a good product that you can sell for more money. If
Yes.
you can recognize in that process there's a tree that is just not going to make it and no one can fix these roots, then cull it and get it out of the
Yeah, you're
inventory
saving.
and save your water, save your resources. So, I don't know exactly how to put a number on that for them because I don't know their business that well, but I'm trying to learn it. But that is one way to look at it. And then the
Yes.
other thing too, as you said, is the time value of a tree. And as we all know, I think, is that when you look at the benefits that trees give us in the world, in the ecosystem of our world, often the people who quantify the benefits, like the iTree programs and whatnot, they don't even start quantifying the numbers until the tree's about 15 or 20 years old. Then it's just breaking even from everything else that has had gone through and to grow a canopy big enough to actually give you some benefits. So if we're planting trees and they're dying around 20
Before
years
they're
old,
20.
we got
Yeah.
no benefits from that tree. And now it's going to cost you $1,000 to remove it and replace it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of cost
Or more than
benefits
that.
or more than that. Yes. But, it's just, there's a lot of different ways of looking at the cost benefit analysis, but there's definitely, I think it always to me leans toward don't just plant the tree, grow the tree. We need to
Mhm.
grow trees to maturity. I think,
First 20
our,
years are
yeah,
important.
yeah, exactly. So our product that we're building, we gave it a name and it's called Insight. And Insight is that crystal ball from my dream 20 years ago.
Amazing.
It's literally it is that's what it's doing. So it's funny how these things happen.
That is, yeah, it's so inspiring to hear someone coming from outside of the industry recognizing a problem that exists, but it's a hard solution to crack.
It is a
And
hard solution to
but your
crack.
medical experience and background was a perfect fit is what it seems like.
Well, it
Like,
has helped, and although I think it goes farther back than that with me. But and we won't get into that right now. That's another podcast or
okay.
maybe wine instead of coffee. We'll have a chat. But but I think it for me, I am the pissed off customer whose trees died and they shouldn't have. So don't piss me off. This is the bottom line with me. Sorry, but it's not a little crude, but it's true. I think I often wonder why am I doing this, and I just can't let go. It's like it's taken over, and I'm just going along for the ride. But it's
Wow,
hard.
you're not just going along for the ride, you're driving it forward. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Well, we've failed a lot. This is the kind of thing as anyone starting a business or trying to do something innovative in the world will know is that you fail and you learn from failing, and if you don't then you really fail.
Yeah.
So it's been
It's a
an
journey.
interesting ride. And I am very grateful for, for most of this time, I've done it with no funding at all, just a lot of wonderful
Mission.
people who have been also interested in doing this. Some of the people on my team have been with me for 15 years. It's amazing. And for
That is amazing.
most of that time they have not gotten paid anything. And I say most because we are also very thankful that our work has been supported by the National Science Foundation. We got a grant last year, a small business innovation research grant that helped us develop what we've got so far, really.
Yeah.
And also, the state of Vermont has helped us with a grant through the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. So, very grateful for that help. But we can't do this alone. It's our little startup company is basically me and these other people who help whenever they can. And it's gotten to the point where we're very close to having something. It's like we've reached our capacity to, you know, do it alone. So I'm hoping
Yeah.
somehow to inspire some people in this industry to partner with us and help us really get it to where it needs to go and
Get
in the
it to be
industry.
commercial.
And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny, and I told you I this is not my first choice of being in this industry, but here I am. And last year, through the National Science Foundation grant, we did a lot of customer discovery because, of course, you can have a great idea, but if it's not really going to solve a problem that other people feel is a problem, like who is your customer, essentially, and
Mhm.
who cares that you're solving this problem? So I tried to talk with people in all the different aspects or the silos, if you will, of the green industry. And it is a very diverse industry.
It
It's
is.
not just the growers, it's the landscape architects, the municipalities, it just goes on and on. I have this Venn diagram in my head. Well, I still do, but back then I was like, I feel like it's a dysfunctional family. And everybody is blaming each other for whatever's going wrong. It's not my fault, it's your fault. And they weren't really talking to each other, at least from my perspective of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And yet, every person I talked to from all the different silos, they did care. They really wanted to see some way to get to
To
the bottom of the problem.
fix
They
this problem of
fix it,
trees
yeah.
not
They
surviving.
encouraged me to do that. And then an interesting thing happened when I attended Synced Live last
Yeah.
year.
It was actually this year, believe it or not. It
That was
feels
this
like
year,
yeah.
January, I know. So that gathering that you put together was amazing because it pretty much covered the gamut of people from all walks of life in the green industry. And instead of seeing this crime scene investigation board in my head of all the
Functional
people,
family.
the dysfunctional family, all of a sudden, or when I left the conference and was thinking about it, I could see outstretched hands from each of these silos of people wanting to help each other to get to where they need to go. And it gave me this feeling like, okay, they're not so dysfunctional after all. There's hope here. And it was just a wonderful feeling. And I am holding on to that image.
Thanks,
It's
Marie. I
great.
mean, I think I've always envisioned that synced could be is like a red thread through all of these
Mm,
disciplines, specialties, silos, whatever you want to call it, because it's actually from my oil industry background. You have your strength in your own discipline because you have to. But if you don't understand what other people's work, what impact other people's work has on your work,
exactly.
you can't come together as an industry and make those huge leaps that we need to. I mean, like to your point, everybody is passionate. If you're in the industry, you love the industry.
Yes.
Do you have time to connect or know about everything that's going on in the industry? Probably not. But,
Mm,
we do need a place to know about everything that's changing in our industry, all the science, the real science that we're learning how to do better. It's
mhm,
happening daily. And if we don't incorporate that into our work, we're going to get left behind and we're not going to be providing a quality service in our own niche. Like technology, materials, tools, software, everything's evolving every day.
exactly.
And look at your overnight success. I'm thinking of that cartoon that you showed me. I love that. Like everybody else thinks, wow, look at this amazing thing. And it's a straight line.
Yeah, right.
It's always
It's a
the
scribble.
twists and turns and,
Mm,
and,
yeah,
um, a bunch
yeah,
of failures that lead to success. And,
exactly. And
yeah,
sometimes they're really big failures. I remember one in particular, back in 2013 or so, we were investigating using, microwave tomography as our technology to do this. So for about 5 years, it looked good on paper, and we applied for government grants. We didn't get them, but, we really were working hard to have that be our
years.
product,
Wow.
part of our product. But then I finally got the actual sensor and went to the University of Vermont to do a test with one of the professors there that I know, and it failed so badly. It was
Oh,
like a colossal failure. And we worked on it all day long, and then neither of us could figure out what else we could possibly do. It seemed like all that time was wasted, or maybe not really, but it wasn't happening, and I walked away and I thought, maybe this is the end of it because I don't know what other sensors there would be. At the time, he said to me, "Try ground penetrating radar again," because we had started out years earlier using ground penetrating radar, just wasn't robust enough to give us the data we needed. But he said it's changed and it has really improved a lot, so you should try it again. And so with that, again, the crazy squiggle, we dropped to the bottom after the testing. And I said, well, what have I got to lose? I'm going to call radar people back. And sure enough, they are the most wonderful people in the world. This company I'm working with, GSSI, on doing this, and their radar had improved a lot. And even since then, it's improved even more to the point where it will absolutely do this work for us,
I
and
mean,
they're very supportive.
that's a great lesson in itself. Just because you tried something once or you tried something at a
Yeah.
certain point in time, everything's
Don't do
evolving.
Yeah,
Don't
exactly.
don't disregard it. Don't throw it
Exactly.
away. Make sure
Right.
that you're
Yeah,
still open to seeing it as a solution.
possibilities, right?
Well, this is so exciting. I just love it. I love that um your passion project of how many years? 20 years now
It's about 20 years, yeah. It's a long
is
time.
I know, but look at what you're
Mm,
doing. You're gonna help elevate the quality of trees grown in retainers in containers.
I hope
Um,
so.
it's you're doing so much for the industry, and you are now honorary member of the industry. You're in it, so can't
I'm
get
in
out
it.
now.
There's no turning around now. Well, I love it. I think it's a great industry. Another a little anecdote I'll share with you from years ago. I think this is 2010 or so. I happened to meet Bonnie Appleton, one of my heroes in the industry, doing a lot of research on tree roots. She has since passed away, so rest in peace. But I did meet her at her lab at Virginia Tech, and at the time I was didn't know what I was doing, but I wanted to do something, and I had a PowerPoint pitch, and I explained it to her, and I said, "Well, what do you think, Bonnie?" And it was pretty crude, but that was a long time ago. But she said, "You know, you're onto something, and it would be great if you could make whatever it is you're doing happen. But I'll tell you one thing, your biggest challenge will be the industry itself." And I didn't know what she meant by that, but I do know now that it's hard to um change an industry. This is a big change for people, and change is hard for anybody. But it's a good change. So it's all the way it's presented and how it can be built into what everyone does. For example, it's important for us to get this ball rolling, if you will, for landscape architects to, because often they will be the ones to specify the trees at the nursery, for in their written specifications for them to put tree root quality as a
As a
qualifying
category. Yeah.
category. Of course, we have to have our tool available to be able to do that, but
Mhm.
once we do and they do that, then we can
Then it all
give
fits
them
together.
the
Yes.
information. So, there's a lot of moving parts,
Yeah.
but
But
it's
you're
doable.
yes, and, maybe, the advice that Bonnie gave you helped set you up for success to make sure that you're involving the right people, because I think that
Talking to them all, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
that makes a difference, and it takes the right kind of change and education to steer a big ship. So and
does.
it's not just one person, "Hey, look how cool this is." It
Right.
is a lot more to it.
It
So,
is for sure.
well, we're rooting for you and know you can do it.
Yay. Thank you.
And Marie, thank you so much for, yeah, being on the podcast, telling everybody about what you're doing, because I think it is so critical to get the word and education out about your journey. And being part of Sync Live this year, and I hope
Mm,
that you will be at future events too, so we
I hope
can,
so too.
help shout for you.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Angelique. I'm really very grateful to be on your show and to have come to know you. Well, it's wonderful.
Thank you,
Appreciate.
Marie, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thanks for
Okay,
joining us
thanks.
today.
Okay, thanks. Bye.
Hold on.